Okay, grade 8. We're going to solve two-step equations. We are doing lesson 2 in chapter 2. This is chapter 2 and lesson 2, and the heading is solve two-step equations. I want you to do this graphic organizer. Okay? Okay. Now, we looked at properties in grade 7. We had commutative property, associative property, So, here you're going to see new properties. And all these, actually they're not new. You saw them in grade 7. All these properties, okay? So, what are properties? Please write this definition. Properties are statements that are true for any number. They must be true. The minute you say it is not true, then it is not a property. Okay? So, now let us look at how addition property of equality looks, subtraction property of equality, and then we will look at multiplication and division property of equality. Okay? So what did I say in addition property of equality? Here, how do you apply the addition property of equality? The equation must be a subtraction equation. Okay? If the equation is a subtraction equation, then you will solve using the addition property of equation. What do I mean by that? So I will write a minus 5 equals 12. The minute I see subtraction between my variable and a constant, then I will apply the addition property of equality. So I will draw my bridge, and because this is a minus, I will do the opposite. So that means I am adding the same value on both sides. Addition property of equality, meaning I do the same thing on both sides. Then I box this because this gives me 0. A number plus its opposite will always give us 0. A number plus its opposite will always give us 0. Negative 5, the opposite is positive 5. When I added them, I got 0. Then I'm going to solve on this side, and I'm going to say A equals to 17. If I check my work, I will say A, which is in bracket, minus 5, should equal to 12. A is 17, so I write 17 minus 5 is equal to 12. 12 is equal to 12, and you do the check. So then, since this is correct, I can confirm this is my answer. Okay? So, remember, you're doing the opposite. You're doing the inverse operation. Okay? So, let us do subtraction property of equality. So when it comes to subtraction property of equality, so I just have the same equation. A plus 5 is equal to 12. Now, since I want to do subtraction property of equality, since this is a plus, I will minus. Draw your bridge first. I will minus the same value on both sides. That is why it's called equality. Use the same value on both sides. Okay? A number plus its opposite will give us 0. So we got A equals 12 minus 5 is what? That should be 7. Then you do the check. So then we will say A, the variable is always in bracket, plus 5 is equal to 12. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. 12 is equal to 12. Then I can box my answer. So how did I know I am applying subtraction property of equality? Because in the equation there was a positive. How did I know I am applying addition property of equality? Because in the question, in my equation was I am subtracting the variable with my constant. Here I was adding my variable with my constant. So you do the opposite, okay? Or the inverse operation. Now, in lesson 1, we did these two properties. We did the division property and the multiplication property of equality. So, now, how will I know? So your question will just be, so let us say 2m is equal to 18. So here you're going to apply the division property of equality because you're going to write 2m, you're going to divide by 2, and on this side you're going to divide 18 by 2. You're dividing by the same value. So that is why it's the division property of equality. 2 divide 2 goes away, it becomes 1. And 1 times m is m. 18 divide 2 is 9. And then you check. So you're going to 2 bracket m equals 18. Our m is 9. 2 bracket 9 is equal to 18. This reads as 2 times 9. 18 equal 18, and you put the check mark and box your answer. Now, multiplicative property of equality. So you will have, here you can have two different types of equation. So let us do one. 5 over 7, z is equal to, is equal to 10, okay? So I'm gonna solve by drawing my bridge. My next step is I will do multiplicative inverse. So 7 over 5, 7 over 5. After I write my multiplicative inverse, I write my multiplication. Then I bring down my question, 5 over 7z, and on this side it is 10. Don't forget the equal sign in the middle. Then I box my coefficient together with my multiplicative inverse. I get 1. 1 times z is z. Then I do this one. I get 70 divided by 5. And 70 divided by 5 is what? 70 divided by 5 is 14. Okay, then you check. So you're going to do 5 out of 7, z in bracket is equal to 10. 5 out of 7 times 14 is equal to 10. 7 goes into 14 2 times. So that should give me 2 times 5, which is 10 equals to 10. And I check my work, and this should be correct. You can multiply 5 over, so if I do 5 over 7 times 14, 7 goes here once, 7 goes here 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10. So that's what I wrote over there. If you have a mixed number as your coefficient, okay, and we can put let's put another mixed number, 4 and 1/8, okay? So first you will draw your bridge, change your coefficient to an improper fraction. That's 9 out of 4, because 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9, so that's 9/4. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33 over 8. Then you're going to do your multiplicative inverse. 4 over 9 multiply equal 4 over 9 multiply. Then you bring, so now this is the multiplicative property of equality. When you write the multiplicative inverse on both sides, you're doing the multiplicative property of equality. Then you bring down your question and you box the side with the coefficient and the multiplicative inverse. That becomes 1. M is equal to 4 times 33, that is 12, that is 132 over 72. Okay. So 33 times 4 is 132. See how I am doing my work without the calculator. So 132 divide 72, you get 11 over 6. So M equals to 11 over 6. Change this to a mixed number. M is 6 goes there one time. 11 minus 6 is 5. So this is your answer. And then you do your check. Do your check by yourself. Confirm that Miss Lillian's work is correct. So check by yourself, okay? All right. So now, there's things you have to know. The inverse operations. You have to know all of them. So you have operation and its inverse. There's lots of operations in math, and you should know their inverses. The operation for adding, the inverse is subtract. The operation for subtract, the inverse is add. The operation for multiply, the inverse is divide. The operation for divide, the inverse is multiply. Okay? And then the operation for square root, the inverse is you square. You square the number. That's the opposite of squaring. The opposite of square root is squaring. The opposite of square root is you square the number. Okay? The opposite of square